Thanks everyone for attending the district training today. I'm Joan Firkins from the Oak Bay Rotary Club, and I'm the technical support for this session entitled Fundraising is Difficult, Fundraising is Easy. Again, thanks for attending today, and now it's my pleasure to introduce your session leader, who hails from sunny Elk Grove, California. Dr. Bill Wittich is a speaker and author in the field of nonprofit management. He travels an average of 100 days a year, speaking to professional associations and Rotary clubs. His doctorate is from the University of Southern California, and he's authored a dozen books in the association and nonprofit field. His most recent book is Stop Recruiting, Start Attracting, and little promo is available at Amazon.com. He's a past president of the Rotary Club of Laguna Sunrise, and he served as an assistant governor for District 5180. Bill has served as an instructor for Far West Pets for over 10 years. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome Dr. Bill.
Thank you very much. My title is a little different. Raising money is easy. Raising money is more difficult during COVID-19. And I think you'll all agree with me on that particular part. COVID-19 social distancing norms and the cancellation of in-person events has sent supporters from the ballroom into their living rooms. And you all face that all the time. I surveyed a lot of clubs in the past year, and typically they all hold at least one major fundraising event annually. But in 2020, 48% of those events were canceled and 40% were postponed. So if you look at that, about 98% of the clubs were not doing their fundraising. So they're feeling the pinch right now. Now, those that did convert, this is an interesting thought, those that did convert to a virtual event, an auction, a fundraising event of some sort that we'll talk about, actually earned about 10% more than they did in their live events in the past. So there's something to be gained about a virtual fundraising event. And that's what I want to share with you, some of the thoughts about that today. To me, a virtual fundraiser is a campaign or an event that takes place entirely online and allows your supporters to engage with that cause from anywhere that they are, just like Zoom or GoToMeeting or GoToWebinar, all the various technologies that we have that we can use. But because fundraising takes place entirely online, clubs leverage technology to promote, engage, and execute their fundraising activities. So we're going to say right now, we're going to be using technology. That's going to frustrate some of you who have had some problems maybe with Zoom and some of those other things. But as virtual events are completely digital, they can be executed quickly and opened up to a wide group of supporters, increasing your club's reach. Some of the examples I'll give you today will be talking about the fact that not only are they fundraising to their own people, they're reaching out all over the areas. Now, the major issue with most people about this fundraising business is a fear of fundraising. We know that. If I say, can you raise some money for me? You go, oh, no, I don't like that. See, the major concern is asking. And I can tell you that most people would rather stand on the line at the airport, that TSA line, than they would to ask anyone for money. Now, sometimes it's a question like this that we have about fundraising. What should I ask for? Now, I'm going to tell you right now, I'm going to talk about raising dollars, not only money, but product and services. So when I talk about fundraising, I'm talking about all three of those things: money, dollars, and services and product. So when I say sometimes it's what should I ask for? Your members will ask you, what should I ask for? Or how much is too much to ask for? Or how much is too little to ask for? And we'll touch on both of those topics. How much is too much? How much is too little? Okay. When should I ask? Is a question I get a lot of times. When should I ask for this gift? What words should I use when I'm going to ask for this gift? And how will people react? There's the fear lots of times. How will people react? Well, how do people feel about fundraising? You're thinking right now about your membership in your clubs. Here's what I hear all the time when I ask, how do you feel about fundraising? I hate it. It scares me. I avoid thinking about it, I hear. I'd rather do almost anything other than ask for money. It's a fear of rejection. And I think that's what most of us feel. We go to ask somebody for a gift and they might say no. And we're nervous about that kind of thing. Now, what really makes fundraising so hard? Is it a stigma around money? To some extent, yes, it is. Because you're asking for something that you don't have, but you want. They have it, and they don't want to give it up. So, how do we work that all together? Is there a power relationship between the giver and the asker? And in most cases, there is. Even if you're going into a local business, maybe a Home Depot or a Lowe's or one of the places like that, and you're asking for something to give from them for your auction, it's still they have the power and you don't. So there is a power relationship there a little bit between the two. Does it feel degrading? Well, to many of us, it does. It's kind of like, and I'm going to talk a little bit about begging a little later, but it's kind of like begging. Is it a fear of rejection? Absolutely, it is. We don't want someone to say no to us at that point. You know, you ask someone to become a member of your club and they say no, and you go, "Oh, that bothers me." Fundraising to me is relationship building. People do not give to people they don't know or organizations they don't know. And it's real hard if they're a complete stranger to get them to say yes to you. So, we're going to talk today a little bit about relationship building because that's where fundraising comes alive. It's kind of building tribes, funny word, but tribes of people who share your values, people who have the same needs, desires, feelings that your Rotary Club has about certain things, whether it's the food bank or the senior center or whichever group it is, the school. There's people out there who share your feelings about those places, and they're your tribe, and your tribe is more likely to give you help. It's matching what you do with people's passions. If people don't have a passion for what you do, they probably won't support you very likely. It's telling your story. And that is so important that you have a story to tell. Because when you ask someone for a gift, they're going to say, "Why do you want that gift?" They're going to say, "Tell me your story." They won't say that, but they expect to have some information from you. And it's a matter today, fundraising is getting access to all kinds of resources, dollars, product, services, people. Those are all the things that make your club come alive. On the most obvious level, though, let's face it, fundraising is asking for money because money is the key to what a lot of the work we do in Rotary requires. Whether it's in polio elimination or whether it's helping someone in Africa, it's always got something to do with money. And many people have painful relationships with money. They do. When you were young, what did your parents say about money? You're all thinking about that now. Mine said money is hard to get. Sure is. Or they said money is dirty. Never quite understood that one, but that's what they said. Or I heard money equals power and influence. Oh, I heard money corrupts. Didn't quite know how, but that's what they told me. But money is private, I also heard. And certainly you heard it can't buy happiness. I'm not sure we all agree with that completely, but that's what our parents told us, of course. You know, the idea of talking to people about money can be frightening. And I still have the edge when I go to talk about somebody giving me a gift. I get a little nervous, just like you do at that point. See, people connect to a cause, whatever that cause is. Example, food bank, senior center, schools, churches, whatever the cause is you're working for, they connect for emotional reasons, not logical ones, emotional reasons. Now, you can teach all of your members basic fundraising skills. But you cannot teach commitment and sincerity. And that's what donors respond to. I do a lot of work here in this area of Sacramento with the music circus and the Broadway series and things like that, where we have some wealthy people who attend these concerts and these music events. But if you're not sincere and you're not committed to that cause, they can read it right away. That's why sometimes professional fundraisers have a hard time, because they're being hired to come in and act like they really are committed to that particular group that they're being paid to fundraise for. You don't have that problem because you believe in what you're asking for. See, fundraising to me is above all a form of connection. It's a form of connection. Now, there are 4 myths about money. Let's get the myths about money out of the way first today. There's a shortage of money for nonprofits. No. Last year, Americans, and I'll just use Americans, I don't have the Canadian figures here, but Americans donated over $300 billion to nonprofits. There's no shortage of money. It may be a shortage for you getting it because of something that you're doing right or wrong, but there's no shortage of money for nonprofits right now, even during the pandemic. Number 2, it's impossible to raise money when the economy slows down. Well, if that was true, talk to Ronald McDonald House, talk to United Way, talk to Make-A-Wish Foundation, or some of your local charities in your country, and you'll find out they are doing very well. In fact, some of those, the 3 I mentioned, Ronald McDonald House, United Way, and Make-A-Wish Foundation, actually are fundraising at a higher level right now than they did prior to the pandemic. Interesting. Number 3, I don't know anyone who has money. You probably support yourself at least 5 or more organizations each year. You do. You support the Rotary Club. You probably support your church, probably support your temple or synagogue. You support the school. You support this. And you probably give about $2,500 a year. Now, when you figure your taxes each year for donations, you could see that real fast. And that's about the time of the year we're doing it here in the States, of course. So I don't know anyone who has money. No, you do know people have money, and you give money, but you may not be giving it to where we want it today. You already know all the people that you need to know to raise all the money you need to raise. Now I can stop right there. You already know all the people you need to know to raise all the money you need to raise. So let's talk about that a little bit too. But let's talk about who is best at fundraising, because we'll learn from them. Faith-based organizations, churches, temples, synagogues, they collect 1/3 of all the charitable dollars. Now let's find out why they are so good at this. Why are they the best? They ask. Hello, they ask. They ask everybody. You go to a church or temple or synagogue, they're asking every one of you. And it's expected. If you're going to be a part of this group, this faith-based organization, you will give. They provide lots of options, lots of ways to give. My own church, for example, I do it online. I just give them X number of dollars per month and it comes right out of my checking account, and I don't even have to write a check. It's easy. Volunteers are the ones who ask for the gifts, just like in Rotary clubs, okay? And you know what? They build relationships. You give because you enjoy what you get from them. You enjoy your fellow people that you're associated with in that faith-based organization. So there are relationships there. And they create lots of opportunities for donor interaction. They have all kinds of events. I just got a notice today about a men's retreat that we're going to have at my church. And it's going to cost a little bit of money to attend this retreat. It's not going to be away like it normally would be somewhere in a fancy place, but it's going to be here in town, and we're going to be together. Now, why do people give? It's an interesting question, isn't it? Why do people give? I think number one, they care about the cause. People do not give to things that they don't like, and they care about the cause. If the cause is cancer, if the cause is, you name any illness, any place in town, any theater group, any Rotary Club who does certain things that they support, and they see a need. Not only do they care about the cause, but they believe in you when you tell them what the need is, when you show them what the need is. And they've had some experience with your group before. It's harder to get a brand new person who doesn't know who you are at all and what your organization is to give anything. But when they read the newspaper, when they see the video, when they hear people talking about this group, that means they've had some experience with the group. They know who you are. So why do people give money? Giving is a tradition to them. All of us give all the time, but we only give to those who we value. And it's a tradition. Giving is a tradition. And they enjoy the recognition. Yes, they enjoy seeing their name on the platform, the name in the newspaper. They love someone coming up and saying, "Hey, thank you so much for that gift. I saw your name." Now, when we get into businesses, because we're going to talk about businesses, we're going to talk about getting products and services for our events. They definitely want, if I go to a restaurant, if I go to Home Depot, if I go to a bank, and they give me a gift, they want to see their name in print somewhere. Yes, they're giving because they care, but they also are giving because it's a good business sense to have other people know that they gave. So they enjoy the recognition and they want to give back. Most people want to give back. They make a little bit of money or they have a little product or they can do a little service and they'd like to help your organization because they like the organization. And of course, many people, all of us, donate and itemize on our tax returns. Okay, so there is a little bit of that. It's not a big deal, but it does add up to some savings at the end of the year or money back from the government. And it will bring them, here it is, it will bring them business. That's what I did and I'll talk about this a little later. We have a program in Elk Grove, California, which is called the Taste of Elk Grove. And what we had was about 40 restaurants that come to an event and give us a sampling of their food, and about 40 wineries that come and just pour little tastes of their wine. Now, that costs them a lot of money, both for the people who come to supply the product and give it away there, and for the food and wine that they give away. But why are they doing it? Because it's a business. They want us to sample their products. Many times, nobody's ever been to their restaurant, but all of a sudden you're tasting their food. And we even go so far as say, why don't you give a little coupon good for maybe half off the next time a customer comes to your place? Because we want to make sure that our people go to their place. Our customers go to their place. And so the next time we have this event, they'll be willing to help us with it. But all those things are important, but something's still missing. The key word that's missing is somebody asked. That's why we got the gift. Somebody asked. Believe me, if you don't ask, you don't receive. That's for sure in the fundraising field. And they have a relationship with the asker. Now, let me tell you real quickly how I work all those restaurants. 40 something restaurants that will come. Now, this is not going on right now with COVID-19. Of course, the restaurants are in trouble. We know that. But prior to this, when we dealt with a restaurant, I never asked a restaurant that I hadn't already had a meal at, paid for my meal, got to meet the manager or the owner, and let them know about Rotary and what we do. So I was building a relationship all the time with them. I never go in to see a stranger. I always work with that business first. I'll give you a couple more examples in a few minutes about that. The relationship is so important in fundraising that they know who you are and what you do. And these people that give me something want to be part of the work. They want to help to eliminate that disease. They want to help to bring that music to the community. Why are we so uncomfortable asking people to do something that makes them feel so good when they do it? Give you a quick example of that. I was buying some gas the other day happened to be at a Costco gas station. And a gentleman, he was in his 30s, and he walked up to me and he said, I need some help. I need some gas. My wife and kids are in the car right there. We simply have run out of money. I said, tell me your story. And he said, I got laid off, and he explained this whole thing to me. And I reached in my wallet and picked out a $20 bill and gave it to him. Now, how did I feel after giving him that money? Good. I really felt good. Now, was he begging? No, he was asking for help. And because I believed him, because he told me his story, and I trusted him that his story was accurate at that point. Now, sometimes you think, though, when you go out asking for help, that you're begging. You know, the definition of begging is something for nothing. Think about that. Something for nothing. I'll give you, and I don't get anything when I give you. But the definition of fundraising is something for something. They give me, I give them. So let's talk about what the difference is between begging, which is something for nothing. You know, the average person on the freeway with a sign that says "Help me" is begging. So when I give them money, there's no exchange. Fundraising, though, is so different than that. Fundraising is they give me and I give them back something. Now, you're not begging if you're exchanging one thing of value for something else of value. So when they give me a gift that I'm going to put in an auction to raise money with for my club, they're getting publicity because I'm going to make a big deal about the fact that who this business is that gave me money. So they get value out of that. See, the key word, I think we could stop right there for a minute. The key word is exchange. When somebody gives you something, they need to get something. Now, they may get publicity, they may get recognition, they may get a very good feeling, whatever it happens to be. But it's up to you to make that happen. Now, we had recently an end of watch fund. End of watch are police officers or firefighters who died in the line of service. And there's a fundraising event called End of Watch. And they had a drive-through crab feed here in town. So we got a local restaurant to supply the crab, paid for it, but then charged more, of course, to make some money on it. I think it was $60 for a dinner of crab. And the vehicles drove through from 2 to 6 p.m. And the group made a tremendous amount of money from that. And everybody was in masks and everybody with gloves and all the food was handled safely. But it really worked out very well. So I guess what I'm asking now is, who are you looking for when you start fundraising? You want to figure out who you have a relationship with already. In your big city, in your small town, in your area, who do you have a relationship with already? And who are the people who care about your cause? See, so much of what you do is spreading the word about the good that your Rotary Club does. And there are a lot of people that have a relationship with you and who care about your cause. And there are people with money or resources to give. We know that. Our task is to get it, get it to be able to use for something. And people who what are you looking for? People who receive value from their giving. And that's what you want. Now, the value might be they feel very good about giving you, or the value might be it improves their business, or the value might be, you name it. What's the value of their giving? Okay. If there's no value for them giving, they're probably not going to give. Now, the average American, again, I apologize to Canadians, but this research came from an American source. The average American knows 200 people. You can think about yourself. How many people do you know? Start thinking about your list on your computer and all the friends you've had over the years. You know about 200 people. If you're a board member, and many of you are, you're on the board for the food bank, you're on the board for the senior center, you're on the board for the school, you're on the board for the church, you know about 500 people. Now just stop right there. You know 200 people or maybe 500 people. Now those are bona fide prospects, people that you can ask for help from. See, the key to fundraising is not raising money. I'm going to say this over and over again. It's developing relationships, because people only give help to people who they know and value that relationship with. So you got to make a relationship, Let me tell you about my experience with as an alumni of the University of Southern California. Now, probably some of you out there are beavers or ducks or, huskies, different things like that. So just put up with me for a minute. What we do at USC is we cultivate the relationship with other alumni to try to raise money for the university. And we'll as volunteers for the Alumni Association, which I'm in, I make sure that I'm going to contact other fellow alumni, maybe from the same major, maybe not, but we spend about 90% of our time raising friends among other alumni, and 10% of our time asking for something. And that's that relationship building. I'll talk to an alumni and I'll say, hey, let's go get a cup of coffee. I want to talk to you about what's been going on in this field that I'm in, which happen to be communications and film and things like that for me. And I talk to other alumni in that field, and we sit down and talk about things. And and these are people I hadn't met before, but they went through the same program I did, and they're friends. They're alumni friends. So we don't ask them. Now, the more contacts, here's a key that you can use. The more contacts we made with a fellow alumni, the higher the donation. The more times I called up and said, hey, I want to let you know about this event going on, or hey, can we get a cup of coffee or something like this? If we didn't spend enough time with that person, we were not ready to ask for anything to support the university. And the conversation should not ever be about money. The conversation, in my case, should be about USC and what it's doing and all the new things and all the new buildings and all the new programs, or maybe better football seats. Just kidding. But, whatever it is that somebody's looking for, understand, though, that donors support issues that they have personally encountered in their lives. We can stop right there for a minute. Understand that donors support issues they have personally encountered in their lives. That's why you give to the American Cancer Society. That's why you give to this group. That's why you give to that group. That's why you give to the music. That's why you give to the film groups. That's why because you've encountered something in that group yourself. So it's our job to find people who have an affiliation with our issue. If you're trying to eliminate a certain disease, then who cares? Well, people care who have an affiliation. Maybe they have a friend, a family member, someone who had that disease, or they're worried about it themselves. Understand that donors choose an organization based on what impact it is having. If something is not getting good press, it's not very effective, your fundraiser is going to be a problem. So the impact. So that's why you need to, on everything you're asking about fundraising, you need to have it on Facebook. You need to have it on Twitter. You need to have it on LinkedIn. You need to have it on Instagram. So the people out there see the impact that we're having. You got to understand that donors want information on the good work that their donation has accomplished. They give you maybe $50. Well, what does that $50 mean? How did it help? Well, talk to them then. And here's the biggest problem with fundraising. We ignore the people who gave us the gift. We never go back to them. And therefore, the second time you come asking for a gift, they say no, because you never told them how much it affected what you did. To me, the goal of any fundraising program is to create lifelong relationships with donors. And I think in Rotary, we do that. We make lifelong relationships with fellow members and with people who support us. We don't go away next year. We're around forever, it seems like, okay? And donors, those who give you gifts, want to be appreciated as people, not checkbooks, okay? And when donors are personally appreciated, the size of the gifts go up. It's always easier to secure a renewal gift than to find a brand new person to give you money or to give you supplies or to give you service, okay? A renewal is always easier. In fact, I found a statistic recently that I think you'll be fascinated by. When a donor receives a prompt personal thank you after they gave a gift with information on the results of how that gift helped. 93% will give again, and 64% will give more the second time you ask. Stat. That's true. 93% will give more, and 64% will give more. 93% will give again, and 64% will give more. Understand that if you ask for a gift and get a maybe, and that happens to me a lot. I don't know for sure if I'm ready to do that. Here's why they're saying maybe. There may not be enough connection with that donor. You may not have spent enough time getting to know them, their business, their activities, who they are before you asked. Not enough connection. Or two, the cause. The musical theater doesn't have enough interest with that donor. And that's why they're not going to give you money. And maybe the amount you asked for is wrong. Now, the funny thing about this is the amount could be too little or too much. You're asking for $500 and they were ready to give you $250. But you asked for $25 and they say, it's not worth it. It's amazing. Asking for too little is actually a turnoff to a lot of people willing to make a donation. And number 4, the timing of your ask was wrong. It was just before the holidays. It was during some major political event. Whatever it is, the timing was wrong when you were asking. But just remember one thing, no one gives until they're asked. Okay. Now let's talk about fundraising during this pandemic, because that's your primary concern right now in your clubs. In this climate right now, it may feel to you like asking for money or services or supplies is out of place, and maybe it's deeply uncomfortable to you. But most nonprofits and Rotary clubs are feeling the impact of coronavirus with canceled events, with lost revenue, and disrupted programming. Now, you're a Rotary club. You're a Rotary club who is used to holding in-person fundraising events, at least one event a year. You're holding maybe 2 or 3 a year. And that's where your money comes in. Your money doesn't really come in from dues only. It comes from fundraising. But during this pandemic, in-person events are problematic. You know that. It might seem counterintuitive to make a fundraising push when the world is in crisis. But this is actually an incredibly important time to focus on fundraising right now, partly because you need it. You know, fundraising during a pandemic might seem like a new thing, but fundraising is what you do and what you're good at. Your club has always been good at fundraising. This is an important time to go back to basics and to remember a few facts. 1, your mission has not become less important because there is a pandemic. 2, the need you fill still exists. Keep that story at the forefront of all your fundraising. You fundraise for a good reason. Keep that story out there. You know, a pandemic does not change the way your donors feel about you. They know the work you do. They know how much good comes out of it. They're still with you. Their values have remained the same, and you can still talk about those values. Now, during this time, we need to get creative in ways to reach and engage our donors, as well as to raise our income when we can't physically hold that event where they just all walk in the door. So before you cancel any events, consider whether you can turn it into something digital or virtual, or even a hybrid event sometimes where you have some of each going on. Now more than ever, it's important to be able to ask your supporters for a donation to keep your organization strong through this crisis. If you're feeling both things, the discomfort of the ask and the impact of COVID-19, let's understand the best way to fundraise online during a coronavirus pandemic It might seem counterintuitive to make a fundraising push when the world is in crisis. But this is an important time to focus on fundraising. That's why you're sitting there listening to me today. There are a few important things you can highlight that I will help you highlight to help your supporters understand why you're fundraising now. Almost every nonprofit is currently losing revenue from canceled events. Maybe not even canceled events. Maybe you didn't even plan one because of this pandemic. Not only is this a strong reason for you to continue fundraising, it's also an important piece of information to communicate to potential donors. Let them know how you're feeling about this. Be transparent with them. Let them know that you canceled fundraising events and that's hard on your Rotary Club. It's clear that now is the right time to ask your donors to support you. But the fact still remains that many donors are also struggling financially themselves right now. And we got to realize that. How do you know the right people to ask? Well, unsurprisingly, I think I've said it already, it's all about relationships. You already have a relationship with those people. Now, isn't the best time to be searching for new donors? I'd suggest you work on the people who you've already had as helpers, supporters, donors, all those years that Rotary's been alive in your community. Instead, focus on people that you have existing relationships with and figure out how you can bring value to those relationships. Identify key supporters in your network and give them personalized attention. When I say I run all over town, making sure that every time I walk into a business, I see the manager or the owner and I tell them how much I appreciate what they're doing in that town, because they're all giving something. They're all helping. They're helping one way or the other. And I want to make sure they know that we, the Rotary Club, my Rotary Club, supports them in what they're doing. Make a one-on-one call. Enlist a board member or ask top donors to be part of your seed fund for your fundraiser. Get your members out there asking people, not asking for money, asking for a relationship. Now, you don't ask for a relationship, I realize that, but by going into a business, a restaurant, and always letting them know that you are with the Rotary Club, and here's what kind of events you do. When you do come back to ask for help, product, service, they're going to say, oh, I heard about that. Have you done this before? You've done this before. Fundraising during pandemic may seem like a new thing, but fundraising is what you do and you're good at it. You just don't think of it as fundraising. I'm talking relationship building, and that's fundraising. See, fundraising during COVID has been very disruptive for everyone. Every single sector has been impacted, particularly those who work in event fundraising. And event fundraising is where we want to kind of wrap up today's talk. Due to social isolation policies, many nonprofits have had to cancel or reimagine their future fundraising events. Of course, we know that. But before you cancel any events, consider whether you can turn it into a digital or virtual event. And I'll give you some examples of Rotary clubs that are doing just that and making a tremendous amount of money at it. Now, you could either turn an existing event into something virtual or create a completely new virtual fundraising event in its place. Everyone's looking for ways to help or to be involved these days. And you can provide value to your supporters by giving them an avenue to feel helpful or ways to connect with others, since we're not having much luck connecting one-on-one with people these days. Speaking of back to basics, let's take a minute to review some of our favorite fundraising practices that will help you more than ever. Make a list of all your fundraising that may be affected over the next few months and consider how you can adjust them. Every one of your clubs has one or two or three major fundraisers a year, and you probably have canceled or postponed most of those. So make a plan. Act to move that fundraising online. Then think virtually. You're not in a hotel ballroom with that event or that auction. You're in their living room. You can replace in-person events with an online event. It looks like virtual fundraising events are going to be here for a little while. We keep hoping it's gone tomorrow, but it may be a little longer. In fact, the past year has shown that virtual events can be an extremely effective part of your fundraising portfolio. Lots of clubs are making a tremendous amount of revenue off virtual fundraising events. Let's just talk virtual auctions. Fantastic. Virtual auctions. They can help nonprofits raise a lot of money online. Not only are they typically more cost effective to plan than a traditional live auction, but they're also more accessible to a broad range of people, not just the people who would have come to your event, but people are out there at home able to zoom in. We live in a digital world. We're constantly turning to technology to make things more efficient, more effective every day, and auctions are no exception. Nonprofits of all sizes and shapes are adding online auctions to their fundraising tool belts, if you will. Why? Because online auctions can help nonprofits raise a lot of money. After all, the chance to walk away with an amazing item while also supporting a worthy cause spurs more giving. Auction items are arguably the most important element of an auction. The items, what am I going to bid on? They're the main attraction of the event. Those items that you went out and gathered all over town from your members, from the businesses, from the services. The move to online giving opens up more possibilities for nonprofits, new donors, remote supporters way outside the area, and longer fundraising options. I'll talk about that. But many fundraisers are still grappling with how not only to move their fundraising online, but thrive in a virtual world. The right selection of charity auction items can generate a lot of attention and bids, which translates to a substantial return on all the time and hard work that you put into planning that auction event. Auction item procurement is the process of identifying items that you want for your event, soliciting and acquiring them from donors, and building a catalog of offerings, the catalog being online with pictures of those items that people with their smartphone, with their computer, with their iPad can look right at and bid right there on the online. After all, your virtual auction items would be the stars of the event. It definitely pays to devote plenty of time and thought to procuring the perfect assortment to offer your bidders in that auction. Number one, form a team. Auction item procurement can be a major undertaking unless you have a good team. And you have a team, you have a Rotary Club who can go out there and find all kinds of interesting. Some people will donate. Some of your members will donate themselves. I've had donates, Apple Watches donated and computers donated by the members themselves. Others go into the stores all over town, the businesses or people, sharing the workload of soliciting and tracking the items will help you focus your efforts to build out a diverse range of items and packages. And I'm going to share some of these packages. Number two, get started early. Effective item procurement, getting the stuff for the auction, takes time. You need to brainstorm a list of items, identify potential donors for each one, and personally reach out to discuss your event with them. Build a relationship before they give. Start several months in advance of your auction if you want a big deal, make a lot of money. So whenever possible. Number three, review your donor data. Existing donor data to learn more about which items will be most appealing for your auction for the people going to bid on those items. Some things are just not worth having in an auction. We know that. They don't know the bids on them. But we're interested in getting things. Now, how old are your average donors? How much can they comfortably afford to bid on auction items? Sometimes you have a group that basically, they're not going to spend a couple of $1,000s on an item, but they certainly spend a couple of $100s on an item. So their age, if it's a whole bunch of young folks or a whole bunch of older folks, retired people Who's going to be the ones bidding on these items? Targeting your procurement strategy with hard data. That's what we're talking about right now. Is always a smarter move than relying on feels like, assumptions of what the donors will like. You got to figure out what these donors would really be willing to bid on. And 4, create an item wish list. After reviewing your donor data, work with your committee, your Rotary Club committee, to brainstorm a list of the items that you'd like to offer at your online auction. Now, concrete list of items, even some that initially seem out of reach, will be invaluable for focusing your procurement efforts. And 5, use donation request letters. Put together a mock-up of a letter that you can send to potential donors for auction items. That's businesses, individuals, organizations, and that will save you some time. Send a letter out first, talking about your auction coming up, when it's going to be, and what you're looking for. Give them some hints about the kinds of things. See, once you begin the procurement process, make sure you've got a standardized method in place for keeping track of all those items. They got to be stored somewhere. You got to find them so they're not lost. So as you go, record your secured items and packages kind of in a piece of software, if you would. So you have a list of what you're going to have in that auction. And it will save you time later and a headache once it's time to compile your complete auction item catalog, putting all those things online with pictures. When you think of a classic charity auction, you probably imagine one or more of these top picks. Okay, I'm going to give you a few right now. These auction items are classic that worked for my Rotary Club auction, so I'm going to share with you. Gift baskets. Gift baskets of related items around a theme are classic silent auction items for events of all sizes. Everything can go in that business. It can be a food business item basket. And by bundling standalone items rather than offering them individually, you generate much more interest and competition. Themed baskets are extremely flexible. You get 10 different items from a grocery store, but you put them all in a basket and put a theme to it. It's a picnic for you. It's dinner tonight. Memorabilia. Signed memorabilia is another classic auction item, perfect for virtual events. Things like signed footballs, movie posters, guitars, celebrity photos, first edition books. And you can get those from a consignment service that gives you access to all those kinds of things. And they take a little bit of money and you make a little bit of money. But consignment services, you just Google consignment services, and they have all kinds of things like that that can go in your auction. Wine. Wine is one of the most reliable charity auction items, period. So get donated bottles of fine vintages. Offer them as standalone, a large bottle, or a 10 small bottles bundled as a package. And people will bid lots more than the cost of buying that in the store because they're giving to a charity, giving to your Rotary Club. Artwork is another surefire online auction item. For nonprofits whose donors are excited about owning a unique, rare, or simply beautiful piece of art, this can be an excellent way to anchor your item catalog with a main attraction. Okay. And those are normally donated by people who have them hanging in their home, but they want to make a change and they'll make a donation. How about a fitness package? Fitness packages they reliably attract attention at charity auctions. You might include a paid yoga class, a gym membership, home workout equipment, gift cards to a local sporting goods store. Those are all perfect. Whenever possible, recommend anchoring your auction item catalog with 1 or 2 showstoppers, main attraction items, big things. Those big things will be big ticket draws for your event. The right items can be extremely effective at generating a buzz and securing registrants for your online auction. Example, travel packages, luxury vacations, unique travel packages make excellent big ticket items for online auctions. Be sure, though, with flexible scheduling options for social distancing or travel restrictions, you might want to make sure that these are good for a year or 2, not just tomorrow. Okay. Additionally, consider how much your target audience can easily afford on travel. For instance, you may be thinking about an international getaway when really a domestic flight to the wine country in Oregon or Washington or California might be more appealing to people. Celebrity meetups, another go to auction item is celebrity meetups and other opportunities, a chance to take a local celebrity, even notable local figures, the president of this company or that city, this mayor, and maybe a meal with them, a lunch with them, a round of golf, or speaking engagement with donors are great options. And people will pay money to have that chance to go to lunch with that individual. And maybe it's a star of some sort that lives in your area. Fine dining packages. Do your donors love to wine and dine, particularly after we get through this COVID thing where we can sit inside a restaurant? And maybe curate a special fine dining package for your next online auction. Maybe it's a do-it-yourself style package. You put together gourmet ingredients, a bottle of wine, specialty baked goods, a delivered desserts, and a luxury auction basket. How about pro golf lessons? Golf pointers from a pro can be a perfect showstopper for your charity auction if your target bidders are big golf enthusiasts. Tech toys, a fancy new laptop, tablet, smartphone, video game console, smart appliance can be a crowd pleaser. Tech is effective because people are interested. And many donors might already be considered purchasing their new smartphone. But if they can buy it through an organization like Rotary that they care about at an auction, it's a win-win. Be sure to look into handheld game consoles like the Nintendo Switch. Parents might already be planning to buy one for an upcoming birthday or holiday. And here's a chance to get it. And you make money because you didn't pay for it. It was donated to your club. How about staycations? Staycation package. If your supporter is already spending more time at home and social distancing, why not make a vacation out of it? Create a staycation package full of at-home activities, a cozy robe, a bath bomb, backyard gardening supplies, food delivery certificates, and more. Make it stay at home. Cooking is another at-home activity. It's been on the donors' minds lately. Offer them top-of-the-line kitchen appliances like stand mixers, immersion blenders, Dutch ovens, herb garden kits, and more. I guess we're suggesting you think of items that your audience of home chefs would have fun using, but haven't yet purchased for themselves. Okay. You might even create a home gourmet basket to bundle your appliance, gourmet ingredients, or online cooking classes. Okay. In fact, the past 9 months have shown that virtual events can be extremely effective part of your fundraising portfolio. Let me wrap up by just talking about one club, mine, Elk Grove Rotary Club in California. We held recently a beef and reef, we call it a beef and reef bash. It was a drive-through pickup tri-tip dinner along with an online auction. Now, it was held one Saturday night from 5 to 7 and raised $50,000. Whoa, nice. Tell me more. How did the club do this? Well, there were 3 steps to this fundraiser. One, people could sponsor the event, and there were 7 levels of sponsorship from $100 to $10,000 that a business could put money in to sponsor the event, and they would get their name on the auction website. They get their name in the catalog. Two, tickets were available for the dinner pickup. $60 for the dinner and drive through. Now, we had to pay for it from a local barbecue restaurant that put the meal together. And 3, everybody could bid on the online auction items. Guests were offered the opportunity to bid using their smartphone or their computer. Now, here's the good thing. You could leave that auction open as long as you want, and we kept it open for a week. So for a whole week, people are going online looking at these pictures of these different things, and there were a couple of 100 auction items that they could bid on. And then after the week is up, then we pick the winners, the highest price that they were bidding on these items. See, you can recreate the magic of your online auction online. You can even do it live with streaming. We didn't. We made it virtual in this sense. Software provides the tools to run an online auction. We used a company, and I'm not recommending this company, even though they were very good. It was called schoolauction.net. But if you Google online auction, you'll come up with probably 20 or 30 different companies that all they do is they have the format so let you put pictures in of all your items, and they'll actually handle it for you. So when people go online to bid, they take care of all this. They take a little bit of money and they give you a lot of money because it's a matter of the cost of doing business in that case. Okay. Well, that's a lot of information. I think we've done a lot of different things. You remember certain things like relationship building, I'm sure, but I'm available for questions if you have any frustrations, anger, hostility, anything you want to express with me.
Well done, Bill. Thanks. That was so informative. You should have seen everybody writing like crazy. So, and I think the other really good thing is we haven't lost anybody at all.
Oh, good.
So obviously it was very
Everybody's
interesting.
awake?
They are.
Oh, good,
So
good.
just a reminder to everyone, please use your digital raised hand to ask a question. And you can start on that anytime. So let's go. Sheila Walker, please unmute yourself and ask your question.
Okay, it's not a question. I belong to a nonprofit organization, and every year we normally do a big gala. We raise $100,000. In November, we did an online auction. We had an auctioneer as well, so we did a live auction.
Right.
We raised $200,000.
Fantastic. Whoa.
Never raised before. I truly believe in what you're saying.
Uh-huh.
It is the way to go, because we could not believe how generous people were. It was their generosity that led us to the 200,000.
And I
That's
think
great.
we're going to find in the future that we have more of the online auctions than we ever thought we would have because of the fact you can spread it so far beyond just the local community. That's great. Thank you for those comments.
All right. Make sure this is a question, please. Julie Renard, you're next.
Thank you. I have a question about gross versus net. What did it cost you to raise 50,000?
We spent about $20,000, and most of that was the cost of the online auction service and the food. So out of the 50,000, we made profit about 30,000 on that event.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Next up is Larry Arrowsmith. Larry?
Yes, thank you. Hi, Bill.
Hi.
How do you deal with the responses from local businesses who advise you that every day there is someone coming through their door looking for a donation? What makes your club or group more deserving than those other groups? We have faced that ourselves on many occasions, and there are 2 Rotary clubs in our small community. So we face that on a continuous basis, and we're bound by gaming regulations too for some of our fundraising. So.
I understand what you're saying. And of course, if I walked into a business in town and asked for a gift, I would get the exact same reaction. And if it was my business, I'd probably give back the same reaction. Let me just talk about those restaurants that we use. And it took 40 restaurants. That's a lot of restaurants giving away a lot of food.
Yeah.
I never asked a restaurant until, I'll be honest with you, until I've been having a meal there twice. And I never mentioned anything about our needs. They knew me. And then I said, I have an idea we're working on. We're going to have a event. And I think this is a marketing tool for you because you're going to have, we have 800 people that show up at this event. I said, you're going to have 800 people, many of which have never, ever seen your food, never tasted your restaurant. What do you think about this as a marketing tool? And that's how I approach it. I always approach the business would get something from it as opposed to giving me something. Does that make sense?
Yeah, it does. Thank you.
Okay.
Very good. Pat Zane, do you have a question for Bill? Go ahead, Pat.
Bill, I've enjoyed your presentation very much today and learned quite a bit. I am curious about the drive-through crab feed that you did. It's something, I'm in a small town. Our club is in a fairly small town just west of Seattle, a couple of hours west of Seattle. Mm-hmm. And every year we do a salmon bake. Last year we had to, because of the requirements, COVID requirements in our county, we had to cancel it. And we were going to try a drive-through salmon, bake, and crab feed,
Mhm.
and the city just decided that it probably wasn't a good idea. We do it in
Right,
the 1st
right.
of August, and we still were not at a point where we could actually do that successfully.
Right,
So
right.
I'm curious about that. If you could tell me more about that.
Our biggest concern was our county health department. And we met with them probably a half a dozen times because they wanted to check everything, the gloves, they wanted to check the packaging, they wanted to check the food, they wanted, and we had to satisfy, and it was a headache, but we had to satisfy everything they said so that when the people got that material, it was safe. Now, in most cases, the food has to be taken home and microwaved or heated up again. They're not going to eat it right there in the car. But they were most concerned. Now, our city had no concern, but our health department is the ones we had to work with primarily to satisfy the COVID problems that we're facing right now. We also got the local police department to help us because we would have this tremendous lineup of cars on the street. And they actually came and volunteered, and they used some of their police volunteers to help us because that was the other issue that the city had is we cannot have this traffic jam because you're going to have these 500 cars or something line up in there. So those two things were our only concerns that we had.
Well, I actually prepared for that last year and did a traffic mitigation plan, worked
Right.
with the health department, and I did all of that ahead of time.
Mm.
But we were still in a very restrictive mode for COVID. Now, as far
Right.
as selling the crab, did you do that as far as tickets ahead of time or?
Online, they had to buy it, and they got a registration number that they gave to the person who was delivering the food. Yes. Let me say something else about the city. We have probably 5 of our major city officials, council members, and staff in our Rotary Club. And that helps. It really
Oh, it
does. If,
does.
if you can get those people
Absolutely.
in the club, they certainly went to bat for us. And that was probably why we had no problem with the city because the mayor was right there giving out the food. Yeah. But thank you for that.
Thank you.
Okay, we'll move on to the next question, but Bill, before I do that, I want you to say, thanks, Pete. Do you hear me? I want you to say, thanks, Pete.
Thanks, Pete.
Pete just bought 2 of your books.
Oh, fantastic. Thanks, Pete. All right.
All
Thank
right,
you,
let's-
Amazon. Right.
Yeah,
Exactly.
let's move on to a question from Walt, please.
Okay.
Walt
Yeah.
Elliott.
I was in a bank in our community in the lobby, and I noticed on a table they had booklets. And the booklets described all the good things they'd volunteered to do in the community, both the numbers and the stories, something they put out annually. Do you think this might be useful for a Rotary Club to do, that we could give to people who come to our meetings and all that sort of stuff?
Fantastic idea. Yes, it is. We have done a little bit of that by using our service clubs to get together. We have Lions and Kiwanis and Seroptimist who all put in a little booklet, like you're suggesting, 1 page for each organization, which what they do with it is they talk about their fundraising event that's coming up with actually dates. Now the hard part was getting them to think a whole year ahead and put dates down. But sure enough, they did it, and it really does help to get those people. Now we haven't done that since COVID, so we haven't done online in that book, but that was prior to this event.
Yeah.
But it's a great idea. Thank you. Well,
Okay, I don't got any more raised hands, but I did see something in the chat room, and I thought it was a good question to ask you or
Thank you.
some advice. Talking about someone who lives in a smaller community and everybody from a fundraising point of view is gunning for the same buck from
Yes,
all
yes.
the different places. So just wondered if you had a little bit of advice on that.
Well, we are in a similar mode because Elk Grove is a fairly small area outside Sacramento, which is a large city. So we have every one of our fundraising things. We're competing with all the other service clubs, at least, there's other charities too. Of course, we're only concerned with the service clubs. What we did is we formed a service club alliance, and we get together every couple of months and talk about what we're doing, because we're all dealing with the same businesses. We're all dealing with Home Depot. We're all dealing with Lowe's. We're all dealing with the banks. So we would make sure that we kind of had our target on who we're going to go after and when we're going to do it. So these people, and we have the manager of Home Depot in our club, and he's the one that says, this is so great because then I know that the Lions Club is not going to be here until March, and you guys are doing this in December. So it's kind of coordination. And I think we don't do that enough to coordinate service clubs and their activities, particularly fundraising, because that's where the businesses get so upset. Everybody's coming after me for money. Well, it's true. They are right now.
Okay, that's great, Bill. Thank you so much. I
So thank
certainly
you
on
for
be-
having the
on-
opportunity to speak to all of you. This has been fun.
Yeah, it
And
has been
you
fun.
kept me off of an airplane, which is wonderful.
Oh,
Hey.
that's- Well, I know that everybody appreciates the wealth of information that you've provided, and we thank you so much for taking quite a bit of time out of your day to prepare and do this for us. And so thank you again, and good luck
Okay.
to you and
Let
anything
me-
you do.
Let me mention, Joan, also that my email is simply my name, Bill Whittish, at Comcast.net. And if any of you get back home and you're thinking about something you should have asked me, please send me an email. I'll respond to that, of course, right away. Just
That's
Bill
great.
Whittish at Comcast.net.
And darling, they are at home.
Yes, I know. We're all at home right now, including me. Right?
We're right. All right,
Okay.
it's lunchtime for everybody. Thank you all for attending. It's great to have had so many people on board, and enjoy the rest of your day.